Welcome in to Greenville Grit, Greenville residents in touch on 103.7 WTIB. This is the local show that keeps you connected and in touch with the issues that affect what's happening in your community. Greenville Grit is sponsored by Ribeyes, Kid Construction, and Greenville Toyota. Now, here are your hosts for Greenville Grit, Terry Williams and Michael Overton.
Hello and welcome to Greenville Grit. I am Terry Williams.
And I am Michael Overton. Terry, we are continuing. I know that I've been saying this the last several weeks, but we are continuing to speak with all of our candidates for Greenville City Council. So today we have Patrice Barrow on. Patrice, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for being with us.
And you are running for Greenville City Council District 1 against Candy Smith, who's an incumbent.
Yes, I am.
Awesome.
Okay,
well, thank you for being on the show. We look forward to getting to know who you are and why you're running and what you think you can do for the city of Greenville. But before we do it, we always thank the sponsors.
That's right.
So we got to thank Greenville Toyota. If you're looking for a new Toyota or a Scion or a new used car, go see Craig Goess and the Greenville Toyota team at greenvilletoyota.com. Across from Fresh Market on Greenville Boulevard or Memorial Drive. Better get that right.
That's right.
And you can call them on the phone at 321-3000. We also got to thank Ribeyes Steakhouse for several months they've been with us. Looking for a wonderful steak, great atmosphere, and just a good times. Go check them out at Ribeyes at the corner of Fire Tower and Arlington Boulevard. They also have a location in Williamston. Got to thank the Overton Group Real Estate Professionals and the team that I work with every day for what they do for us. And we serve all of Eastern North Carolina, commercial real estate, leasing, sales, business brokerage, and property management. We're now going to take our first commercial break. We're going to come back, and we will start talking with Mrs. Barrow. Welcome back to the Greenville Grit. I am Michael Overton, along with my co-host Terry Williams. And again, before Terry, we went to break, mentioned that we are continuing our conversations on Greenville City Council candidates and incumbents.
That's right.
Had, I think, 2 incumbents on so far. Candy Smith and Rose Glover have both been on. And now, over the next several weeks, we'll be getting the rest of the incumbents, at least the ones that have responded to me, if you're listening. There's some that still have not.
Some have not.
But today we have Patrice Barrow. Patrice, thank you again for coming on. You are running for Greenville City Council District 1. And I think one of the things that we want to do is let people know who you are. So who is Patrice Barrow? How did you come about to this area? Are you from Greenville your whole life? Tell us the story. So the microphone is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Patrice Barrow, and I am from Greenville. I have lived here in the area since '97. My family roots are from here. I'm related to the Ebrons and the Teals from this area. So I've been coming to Greenville all of my life, ever since I was a little girl. Family functions were always here in Greenville. I graduated from college at ECU. I have my bachelor's in sociology with a minor in marriage and family. And I'm currently working at ECU right now, and I've been there since 2005. So I've been in this area that long. I love Greenville. I've been coming Greenville since I was a little girl. It seems like some of the staples that were here growing up are still here. And that's what I'm interested in doing, trying to preserve our community.
Okay.
So that's important.
Well, the second question I ask everyone is why in the world are you deciding to run for public office?
I don't think anybody has a perfect answer to that, other than change. Everybody's looking for change. Everybody's looking for community involvement. Everybody's looking for something new, something fresh, new ideas. I think that with being new comes hope, and with hope comes community action, and involving the community. Just being that person that the community has as a tool to voice their opinions and their ideas, because what we want to do is just involve the community more, hear what they want, present their facts, and just hear their voice.
That sounds good. So what do you actually do at ECU?
Well, I'm in administrative right now. I was working in 2 different departments, so I'm kind of like a floater right now. But I've been there since 2005. It was before we moved into the new Allied Health and Nursing building. I'm not sure whether people know that it's the medical side, which is on the closer to the airport, closer to the hospital.
Right.
So that's the medical side. We were there when 2006 when we just moved in. So
that's very interesting.
10-year employee of ECU. So let's start talking about city politics. Obviously, that's what you're looking to get into. What have you seen over the last well, you've been here now for right at 9 years, or no, 19 years. So that the last 20 years, what have you seen? What bothers you about the direction that the city is going?
I think right now the biggest thing is crime, crime prevention, police presence in our areas, youth involvement, just education for the youth. You see a lot of our youth not having anything to do, just putting out their resources there so that they know what's available for them. And like I said, sometimes you do need a voice, and sometimes a new voice is always a welcomed addition. Veterans, they know a lot more, and that's great because we can feed off of their energy. We can feed off of their ideas. What works and what does not work is what we really need to look at.
Okay, well, crime being one of your biggest concerns, is it choices that have been made in that area in the past that concern you, or I think obviously was it yesterday they announced the hiring of the new police chief? I don't know if you have an opinion on this, but what can you say?
So I think his name is Mark Holtzman, and like I said in the beginning, new is great, change is good. Just more police presence. I don't think there's a one thing that I can pinpoint to say, well, I would have done differently, other than let's just get some more involvement. Let's hear people more. Let's just hear what they have to say as far as what they want to change in their community, because it's really about their voice and me being a venue for that voice. Greenville has struggled in the past, and we're making leaps and bounds and trying to make those changes. Well, let's continue on that path with those changes as far as just better policing in areas that have high crime. So just more of a police presence.
Yeah, I think I was reading the bio on this new chief, and he sounds a lot like maybe walking in the footsteps and the same ideas about how to run the community, so to speak, through the police department, a lot like Chief Aiden did. And I think a lot of people were pleased with what they saw of how he was involved in the community. And just having a presence there was important, and in the school system, which I loved his program that he had, going into the school systems and reading, books to the children. I just like that.
Well, he did a good job of getting in with the community, meeting the community,
yes, he
knowing
did.
Not just the community leaders, but everyone I knew. I mean, he didn't know a stranger.
No.
Where in the past, and I've been here my whole life, I didn't know any of the anyone from the police department. So it was nice to have someone who was personable, and I agree with you on that. I mean, I think it's important that the police chief really gets involved in the community, and he's got to know who all the community leaders are across our city, and has got to create that relationship with them so that there can be mutual respect on both sides.
Right. Well, since you have this interest in running for the city council, obviously you must have watched some of the city council meetings.
Oh yeah, let's get into some good stuff.
Let's get into some good stuff right now. Lots coming up. I haven't heard very much, Michael, lately about the bond. That we've gone through the conversation about the bond and putting it on the ballot in November, and I guess it's going to be on the ballot. I know that, was it last week, they had a big spread in the newspaper about the bond and how, it was legal talk about how the bond goes, but it never mentioned anything about the breakdown of the actual bond that the public will be voting for. So I guess my question is, how informed are you about what's going on with the bond and with that vote, and how you feel about the bond for supporting? I know we need the transportation needs, but there's other things on there besides just street maintenance, which we don't think it really should be street maintenance, but we probably have no choice because we're so far behind, 20 years behind in our road maintenance. So how do you feel about the bond issue, and can you just explain a little bit about your view on that?
Well, I feel that growth and change are important for Greenville. Like I said, coming here as a little girl, some of the staples are still here. Let's preserve what we have. Let's improve what we have. Transportation, of course. It seemed like it took forever to get Fire Tower done, but we're moving and we're growing. With that being said, it may take us a while to get there, but we'll get there. And I think the bond is important for growth.
So I think where Terry was going with it is she and I spent 6 months on a bond advisory committee.
Oh, okay.
There was how many of us? 14? 14 of us on there, appointed by two people from each person from city council. And a lot of what we talked about was road maintenance, which a lot of people don't want that continued maintenance of the roads, they want the city to stay on top of that. So if the city's budgeting correctly, that's what they would be able to do. But a lot of the hot debate came in the first council meeting after this was presented to them, and at the time, everyone voted for the bond package as it is now, I believe. I think they did change it a little bit on the last meeting, but it added greenways, it added the West Fifth Street corridor and some other areas, which it created a lot of emotion from people, especially those on the bond advisory committee, because why do we waste 6 months of our time? So, I mean, do you have an opinion? And I think I think we've had a couple of the people say, well, I am going to support it, or I'm not going to support it.
Yeah.
But I mean, or at the price tag that they put on it, which I think is a touch over $15 million, 15.5 million. You know, is this right for the city for right now, or should we be trying to use money from our coffers that are in other funds to try to take care of the biggest issues and redo this? I mean, or should we be looking down the road that every 5 years we're putting bond packages before the voters? I mean,
certainly, like you said, when you look at a package and you want to pick it apart because you agree with certain things and you don't agree with other things, where our focus should be on whether it should be 5 or 10 years down the line. But in my perspective, in my opinion, why put off what's inevitable to happen? Yes, it's a big price tag. But do we want to think about the ramifications if we don't do what we need to do in the area? I mean, you talk, it's a lot of money, 15.85, a lot. But let's move forward now and not wait till later to look back and say what we could have done that we didn't do. So,
Well, I know that this council has voted through. I have a list here that was provided by another candidate, 12 either fee or tax increases, and that includes increases that will happen if the bond has passed, possibly. Now, when the 2004 bond was passed, they ended up finding the funds way back they didn't have to raise taxes back then, but we don't know what's going to happen if this bond passes and how they're going to pay for it. So that could be easily, and two of the increases on this particular list
don't
take place till 2016. So we've got 2 more coming up that have already been passed by this current city council, and then the proposed, if the bond passes, another tax increase. So I think that's what Michael was alluding to was, are we going to keep trying to pass the bonds? How are we going to pay for all this? Are we going to look at more tax increases? Or can we look at what the funds are available in the different areas in the budget now to come up with some of this money? So that's a big question, and it's a lot to consume probably your thoughts about the budget, and how to cover all of those thoughts about the budget. But I also am interested to know how you feel about economic development. That's that's a big area for us, and we still don't have an economic development director to replace Carl Reese yet, unless it just happened before we walked in the door, and I don't think so. So we're very concerned because they were on a roll when Carl had that office. And since he has been gone, I know there have been some things that have continued, but we don't feel like that vision is there from the current council. And we just wondered how you feel about economic development and what should we be looking to pursue. As a matter of fact, there was an article on Facebook last night out of some newspaper. I saw that Allen, that was a little bit derogatory about economic development in Eastern North Carolina. And I really want to get back in that article and see what they were talking about. But
I think some of the other candidates have mentioned that they're concerned with the number of graduates that ECU has, that very good kids that come out of here every year and have to leave because there are no jobs here. And you mentioned wanting Greenville to grow and continue to growth, but in order to grow, we've got to have a good job base.
Just have to.
So what ideas, what do you think as a leader of the city that you could do to help that continue to grow, and what direction would you like to see it grow?
I would like to see Greenville expand. It seems like we're packed in such a little spot, such a little area. What I see for Greenville is expanding the airport. I live over on that area. I mean, expansion. And with expansion, it brings more jobs, economic development. We're moving out further, outskirts of the Greenville is what I'm referencing. And with bringing jobs to the area, economic growth is bound to flourish. And one of the biggest things, like I mentioned, is our airport. And I think that they've started on some areas over there trying to expand that, but it has not done anything. We're just at a standstill. And Greenville is big enough. We have a big enough population to withstand that.
Well, I agree with you. I think it would be nice to see the airport, and I think they have started bringing in the smaller jets. But maybe one day, that we'll have some bigger planes come in. I mean, Kinston, it's not unfortunate for them. They've got a much larger airport than us. They can bring big planes in. As a kid, I used to fly the 737s in and out of there.
That's right.
So I agree with you. I think the airport is definitely something that can help generate economic interest here. But any other ideas or other things that Greenville as a city can be doing to be attractive to the other areas?
I think just continuing to put our emphasis in the businesses that we have. Expansion, bringing more companies here, the ones that do have more jobs. I mean, here in Greenville, we have those manufacturing plants and what have you, the chemicals. But let's bring more jobs to Greenville that will be more attractive other than ECU, which is great because we have Pirate football. That's awesome. But let's bring some more, like you said, some more revenue to Greenville. Let's bring that money here to expand and grow and put the emphasis back in our community where it should be.
I know I happen to be two things. I happened to be at the hospital, unfortunately, this weekend and saw the cancer center they've broken ground. It's coming out there. People are starting to come into Greenville. They're going to be employed there. That's certainly going to help us. We're both in the housing business, and it'll help our whole community by increasing, the employment there. But also, in the bond discussion, we talked about a sports complex, and I have to say, I visited Rocky Mount this past weekend. My grandson had a baseball game there, and what they've got going on is phenomenal. And some of the people that were against that whole idea.
Are you familiar with the sports complex idea?
Just a little bit. I've just
Need
heard
to go
just
see
a
what
little
they had.
bit.
Yeah, I think
It was packed.
at the last meeting, and granted it was thrown out at the last second, there was I think it was $14 million sports complex, which was massive. It was huge, but that would be an economic generator. I think you talk about the way sports are now. Greenville's been called Sports Town USA in the past. And so what we look for is you have a venue where families can come in, and they might have one kid playing baseball over the whole weekend, but they'll bring the two other kids and the mom and the dad, and they're staying in the hotel rooms and they're eating at the restaurants. And the beauty of these people is they don't live here, but they're spending their money.
They're spending money. It's good for our economy.
Their demand on our services is limited, but the cash that they bring in is tremendous. And we were disappointed that got absolutely no traction or discussion, has had no discussion since then, even though our own visitors and Tourism Bureau chief has begged to say, please bring this in, because ECU football is wonderful. They said a ECU football game on a Saturday or a weekend can bring $5 million economic impact to our city. But that's only 5 to 6 weekends a year. And we have all of these other weekends and all of these other opportunities. And when I look at other towns as, yes, they're our neighbors, but they're also our competition. They're our competition for jobs. They're our competition for dollars. How can we be the best that we can be to bring people in? And I wish that I'd be considered, but I think that brings us back to the council. And one thing that I wanted to ask you is, 2 years ago, there was a lot of crying that there was a 4-2 block and it wasn't fair. In the last 2 years, there's more crying that there's a 4-2 block on the other side of things. And I feel, Terry, that I'm sure you feel, we have a very, very divided council, which can also create a very divided city. How do we fix this?
Listening to what our community wants, not being just one voice, being the community's voice. Because this is a place where we all have to live. I don't want to just speak for myself. I want to speak for my community, and I want to speak for them honestly. I want to know what means the most to them, what's very important to them.
Right. Well, I hope that we get some fresh blood in there, because I'd love to see some things get repaired and love to see our city move forward. Right now is probably a good time to take our second commercial break.
Think so.
So we'll take our next 2 minutes. We'll come back and we will wrap up with Patrice Barrow.
welcome back. We've enjoyed our conversation getting to know Patrice Barrow, who will be running for City Council District 1 against Candy Smith in November elections. So thank you for being with us. And just wanted to know, is there anything else in particular that you would like to discuss or let the public know about you or about your views on anything that's going on in the city you can share with us?
Well, I think there are a number of things that are going on in our area right now. As I mentioned, crime is at the forefront. Everybody's looking at that, especially in our surrounding areas. Every time you turn around, there's something happening. And then with police officer safety.
Right.
That's something to look at as well.
Which is something we really haven't had to talk or think about, unfortunately. You think about it when they make the calls that they're safe, but just in general, there's safety. And with the news, the way it's been this week, it's depressing, really.
It is. And I think that coming with more police involvement in the community, I think would help minimize those effects. Just the police presence, talking with people, being with people, letting them know, hey, I'm just not here for something negative, that we're here for something positive. And the Greenville Night Out, that is so great. That's a very nice addition. And you have them meeting people in the community, sponsoring different events in the area. So I think that's very important too, something continued in that area. So, it's just trying to protect our community.
Well, Ed Brake, a couple of things we were just talking about and love to hear your opinion on is recently Greenville Utilities Commission, that is a charter. It is actually not under the direct control of the City Council. But with all of the things related to the nuclear power plant buyout and Duke Energy taking over that, the city received a 15% reduction in rates. However, they only passed on 7% of that to the customers. Now, I know that your competitor would have liked to have seen much more than that, at least 10%, if not even more. But what are your thoughts on that, on what Greenville Utilities did and where it should have gone?
I would agree, and I think that the taxpayers, the middle class, the lower class, I think everyone should have benefited from that. But did we see change in our bills? I could not tell if there was a change in my bill. And then also, too, I feel that in urban areas, dealing with decreases, do you see the impact versus in other areas of Greenville? Yeah. Do you see that impact? Talking with people in the community, no, you do not see that impact. I think that the GUC decrease in certain areas is very unfair. I think that should be looked at as far as across the board. Is everybody receiving the same treatment, no matter what area you are here in Greenville? And I think that's very important.
Well, and I can probably speak for a lot of the citizens in your area. I have renovated old homes, and as much as I love an old home, old homes are not efficient homes.
Sure.
So power bills in a 1,500 square foot, 80-year-old home can run $500-$600 a month, easy. A lot of times more than the rent itself.
Sure.
So a 10 or 15% decrease would have been substantial savings for the people living in those homes versus someone in a brand new patio home may have a $100 a month bill. So, I'm like hearing what you're saying there because I also agree with Candy Smith on that too. We should have looked at a higher rate.
Well, surrounding cities and communities got the higher. Even New Bern gave their residents higher. Was it 12-13%?
And Wilson gave theirs quite a bit more.
Wilson gave their residents more.
I think Farmville's giving theirs more. I mean, it's everyone around us.
Everybody around us except for us.
Right. See, and then if you look but even after the 100-year flood, these homes were renovated then. They were better insulated then. So what happened to the decrease in price with that being said? Yes, there are a lot of older homes, but after the flood, there were a lot of renovated homes too that needed renovation and that were well ventilated and well insulated since then. But where did we see a change?
Yeah. Budget has been another thing. We'll have about 1 minute left. There's been a lot of criticism on our current city council that the last budget, they pushed through 2 tax increases out of 3 proposed last year, which they now are coming back saying, oh, we're going to give one of those back to you. But Terry and I, we've talked a lot about it.
Process of what they, how
The
they
process
did it.
was basically the manager brought it to them, they rubber stamped it and said, hey, you're good to go. Where the previous council met with every department head and started driving costs down. I mean, how do you feel the budget process should take place? Should you be involved with each department head because you're the one that's accountable to the citizens?
Sure.
Or should the manager be able to put it before them and say, here's what I want to do?
I think visiting with department heads is going to benefit us more than just one person saying, here, this is what's going to happen.
Right.
Again, back to the community here and what people have to say. Me not being in that position all the time, I may not have I may not have the same perspective that he or she does.
Right.
So hearing from people means more.
Different ideas.
That's right.
Well, Patrice, we're wrapping it up. Thank you for coming on and for
We
introducing
appreciate it.
yourself.
Thank you.
Is there a website or anything if people wanted to make donations to you? Do you have anything set up or a way to do that?
Nothing set up right now, but I do have an email address. And
Tell it real quick.
Okay. It is Barrow, BARROWTE, at live.com.
All right. Thank you again for coming on, and thank you again to our sponsors, and thank you for joining in on the Greenville Grit. Catch us at 6:30 tonight, 6:30 Friday night, 9:30 Saturday morning on Cable 7. Until next time, we'll see you next week.